Hello, everybody.
Hi, but now we're back in the room and I can't wait to get going. Come here, I'm so excited.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's go.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season 2 of the Icebreakers podcast. This is episode 2. We just finished watching Dancing on Ice, episode 2. The last 5 remaining celebrities competed tonight, and I am joined this evening by my beautiful co-host in her, what looks like she's wearing Gucci tonight. Frankie Seaman, how are you? How's your week been?
My week has been amazing. It's so nice to be joining you all the way over there in LA. Look at us with our cross-continental live stream. Hello, people. And who said ice skaters can't speak on camera?
Some of us can, some of us can't. It depends upon the day for me, really. All right. Well, this week we saw the remaining 5 celebrities skate their way into the hearts of the UK. Hopefully skate their way into the hearts of the UK. We had a massive shock exit tonight, and we're also going to give away our competition, which is behind Frankie if you are watching us. So we have named a winner for that. Thank you for everybody who submitted to those. And as well, we are going to be doing our golden envelopes since we have seen everybody skate now.
Mine just fluttered past.
We're going to do those a little bit later. All right. The opening number. Let's start just at the very top of the show. Pastels. For me, it was like a sugar sweet fever dream.
It was a bit muted for me, I thought. It was, I loved the pastel, pink and green. Those colours are literally my favourite. But that version of the song for me wasn't as banging as the kind of club tune that I remember from my youth.
Yeah. Fair enough. I just felt, it's always great to see the professionals skate. And like we said last week on the episode, that I feel like they're doing a better job with lighting. We're actually getting to see a lot of their faces. But this week it just felt, the atmosphere felt flat. There wasn't, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't fog in the air. There wasn't low smoke. And the way that it started, I felt like it really could have been. So, I mean, it was a great opening to the show. But at the same token, too, I don't know. And I guess I'm just sort of prefacing what we might be talking about a little bit later in another routine that we saw.
Yeah, and I think obviously we introduced the celebs for this week as well. So that was interesting. And obviously we saw the 5 new celebs. We didn't see any of the celebs from last week. So it was nice to have them highlighted and the spotlight was focused on them entirely and uniquely. I think, straight off the bat, we could see that Sir Steve was going to struggle. We saw him struggle last week in the group number, and I think that only just kind of reiterated the fact that, this is going to be a very slow process for him. The first thing I wrote down was about the leaderboard from last week, actually. I thought it was interesting that they kind of recapped that and we could see who had skated last week and remember who had skated last week and the routines that we saw. And I think overall, the show last week, because it was the first one, I think it had that bit more electricity in the air, a bit more fire and spark, and I think this week was a bit more of a slow burner.
And speaking of sparks, how about Holly's dress? That metal, like, breast carriage or whatever you call that.
Girl, she was bulletproof. And also, can I say, she's got to be having a bit of chafe in there. I used to wear one of those metal bralettes in a show that I did, and my God, they are so uncomfortable. So anyway, praise to you, Holly. I hope you've got some Vaseline for that later because it's going to be chafing.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is that's got to be cold because the studio is not necessarily warm, right? And it's like you put a spoon in a refrigerator and then put it on your skin.
Two spoons.
2 spoons, please. 2 ladles.
But I think a lot of people in the UK would like to spoon with Holly Willoughby.
Right.
Jane Torval looked, I don't know, this week I thought Jane looked very regal. That green really suited her hair. I thought she looked beautiful this week. She was like radiant for me.
And can we just go back before we actually saw the judges? What was that like pontoon or like bridge that those boys carried out? I was like, where are they going with this? What is this?
I don't know, and it looked really heavy, and when they tried to rotate it around, and they were all like pushing, and I was like, guys, that was like back to the gym. It was so heavy. Look, a lot of effort for probably not too much result. And somebody built that. I mean, that must have been a hard thing to build in a week.
Yeah, for sure. That was the first thing that I thought too. Like, that was a lot of effort for just them to take 3 steps onto the ice, right?
I was nervous because you know those things they get. Not that they're slippy themselves when you step on them, but that could have slipped as they stepped on, and we could have all been in the splits.
Yeah.
Like Jean-Claude Van Damme in his famous beer movie between the two lorries. Woo!
All right, so we do have to explain the scores again because while the show was live, I was getting text messages from friends who had been watching, and they were like, "Wait, 6.5, 7.5? This is the second week." So again, because they do these split weeks, the 6 celebs performed last week, the remaining 5 performed this week. The reason they do that is because you're only voting off of those particular 6 or those particular 5 within that episode. So we typically see in those first couple of weeks that those scores are a bit higher. Now, next week, when everybody competes against each other, they will go back to what we normally are used to, which is like those 2.5s, maybe 4.5, maybe a 6 top of the leaderboard next week, but we'll see.
Okay, but spoiler alert, they weren't all on 6s and 7s this week, so I think there was a bit of a change up later on in the performances.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Totally agree. All right, first to skate, Charlie and Eric. Skating to
Woo!
Gimme, Gimme, Gimme.
And she
First
gave me,
steps.
gave me.
The performance, yeah, but first steps. What did you think when we first saw her? Because we didn't see much of her at all in training.
Yeah, I mean, she worried me. Obviously, being an older woman coming into this, you're always a little bit worried about how's her strength, how's her overall physicality. And I know that she's always wanted to do the show, so I think what really shone through was her enthusiasm and how much she loved being here. And she was just so thankful to be on the ice. I mean, I think we all knew it was going to be a bit of a shaky start, and being first out of that tunnel when you've never had to perform in front of a live audience on an ice rink is always terrifying. So I think if they could have given her any costume at all to distract from that, the one that they gave her was absolutely perfecto. I want it. I actually might sneak my way over to Bovingdon and just steal that, because that was I would just want to wear that down to the supermarket.
Of course you do.
Disco Diva.
It was Discolicious. Her first steps for me, I thought, oh, okay,
Did
she's
you
good.
just say Discolicious?
Discolicious.
I love that. I'm stealing that.
Her performance from the get-go, great face. Basic skating, it needs improvement, right? And
Yeah.
I saw they put Eric and Charlie put something up the other day of her, oh no, it was actually on the official Dancing on Ice Instagram. They put up some training footage and instantaneously reminded me of Bonnie Langford and how Georgie Porter started skating. Now,
Yep.
if we take the 3 of them and do comparisons, they're all dancers. They know how to
Agreed.
work on the floor. And the way that Charlie skated was so reminiscent to me of Bonnie's first, couple of weeks as well. Now,
And obviously that was an
dancers-
incredibly successful partnership that you and Bonnie had. So it'll be interesting for you to watch that journey through those eyes.
Jane wants to see landing of the lifts better and wants more difficulty. Again, it's week 1 for these guys, right? I think that's a fair assumption, but at the same token, too, I enjoyed her performance.
So I agree with you. I enjoyed it. It was gimme, 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 a man after midnight, please. It was ABBA. It was the embodiment of that disco fun. A huge. She was a big pink celebration. Let's face it, with the massive curly hair. I loved it. It was interesting that they put Eric in the black and gold, and I wonder if that was a conscious decision from production because, obviously he's such an incredible skater. Were they trying to kind of blend him out a little bit and showcase her? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was subconscious, but that's how I felt, that he didn't really match, his costume didn't really match hers, and I felt maybe that was a conscious effort to tone his skating down, because his natural presence and charisma is so apparent on the ice that obviously you want to showcase her, and so they put her in the bright pink and she looked stunning and amazing. Interestingly, Jane said that she should be proud of herself, which I totally agree. And a couple of the judges, I think Jane and Chris both said that she needs to work on her landings from the lifts, which I don't completely disagree. Yes, she needs to work on her landings from the lifts, but she needs to work more on her takeoffs. So she very much at the start of her journey, before she met Eric, said, oh, I really want to get a strong partner, a strong boy partner. And what she's doing is she's allowing Eric to lift her. And goodness knows, we know that Eric can lift her. I mean, he could probably lift you and I both. But right now she's relying on that, and there's no timing there. So the landings, yeah, that will come. I know that's gonna improve once her legs, actual legs muscles get stronger and she can land on one leg. But what I really saw was that when she was going for the lifts, she actually wasn't helping him at all. So they need to work on that off the ice. She really needs to work on that lift as she goes into the lift, that she's reaching the top of the lift at the same time as Eric, because it was kind of like he was lifting an object as opposed to, this. And once she's in the lift, her lines are stunning, beautiful, gorgeous, but she definitely needs to help him with that, just so that they look more cohesive.
And I do agree with what Chris said, that she needs to lose the reliance on Eric, and that was very apparent. And we see that a lot with the female celebs is, if you can see tension in their hands, that means the girls are supporting a lot of weight. And you see it with the male celebs, with the female pros too, right?
Yeah.
You can always tell where that tension, if the tension is in the arms, that means they're leaning on their pro. And
Yeah.
I agree. I think if Charlie can go away this week and really just work on her knee bends, work on the basics and feeling stable, skating into the ice as opposed to skating above the ice, we're going to see, I think we could see really great things with her.
Well, it is week 1, so she's got a long way to go for sure, and let's hope she can catch up with that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, skating second was Steve and Vicky. I have to say, his first steps, right? His first steps.
No. Okay, go.
That he admitted that he was scared.
Yeah.
That won me over.
Yeah.
Because they are all scared when they step on that ice for the first time. Let me guarantee you that. But he was the only one, at least he's the only one that we saw say it. But the VT won me over.
Well, I think he's coming at it from such a great place, because right at the start of that VT, he's like, I'm 62. I want to show people that at this age, you can still have fun. Now, is he having fun? Ooh, I'm not sure. Perhaps he thought it was going to be more fun than it actually turned out to be. But at least he's approaching it with an open heart.
Yeah. And can we just talk then about the performance when he pulled himself away from the boat?
Okay,
the shorts?
Can we just say he was in his sailor suit dressed as a giant seaman. I wasn't expecting that on Dancing on Ice.
Neither was I. I gotta say, he's got some nice legs.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rower. Dude is built.
Yeah.
He was singing along the entire time. So from the minute he stepped out from that boat and he had to skate, and he was trying to find Vicky, or like his little legs, he was like a swan at the top, and then his little legs were panicking underneath trying to get to Vicky. And you could see that he was singing along, and I often think that celebs do that when they're nervous. They just think they're going to sing their way through it. He was having a great time, though.
Absolutely.
He was bobbing around a bit, though. Woo, bobbing about.
Yeah, he's still trying to find that stability. However, his forward pushes, like if we really go look at the basics of what he's doing mechanically, I liked his forward pushes. That's probably the thing that he's worked on the most over the past 8 weeks or so. But, he did one back crossover, so he's capable. I think it's just now a matter of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to struggle to say too much positively about his skating. Yes, the technique that he did show in the skating that he showed was accomplished from where he had come from, for sure. And I think Chris said that he was the most improved. And like you said, it's a very heartwarming
Which I disagreed with.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I disagreed with it too. I think it was a choppy week. I mean, thankfully he cruised through the routine. But honestly, I have to say, it was sink or swim, and I was worried he was going to get shipped out. Okay, I'm done.
Well, was it a 4 or a 4.5 from you?
Oh boy! Oh boy! I'm just going to wave at you. There wasn't a lot of movement. He managed to get around the rink, which I was impressed with. But it was a little. It was like swimming against the tide, obviously.
No shame from him asking the public for his votes. I got to give him credit for that. Like, this man is honest. He, day one, he said he admitted that he was terrified. And then
well, the judges went through their speeches, and then at the very end, I mean, we'll go back to that shortly, but at the very end, Chris said, "Thanks for everything you've done for this country." And Steve replied, "Well, it sounds like you're not expecting me to be back here next week."
Right?
Did you catch that? Yeah.
Yes, I did.
But the crowd loved it, though.
The crowd loves it, and everybody on socials right now is absolutely loving it too. The judges, yeah, 4.5s, four from Odie. Odie was hard tonight. She gave the lowest scores across quite a few of the celebs, but
Yeah.
that gave them 17.5 in total. Odie did say that she feels his performance was sweet, it was warm. She wants to see more on his own, which, that is what everybody is going to want to see. And Ashley, I agreed with him. The commitment was A plus. Like, he was given a chore and a task tonight, and he accomplished it for what it's worth, right?
I mean, sink or swim, baby. Let's see how he gets on, if it's a slow routine or whatever they have to skate to next week. Which, by the way, is movie week. I think possibly my favourite. I've got to pick one of my favourite movies. It's going to be awesome. So many to choose from.
Third to skate, Molly and Colin. As we've said previously, I'm a huge fan of the Traders. I want Molly to do so well, and her first steps when she first stepped out to meet Torval and Dean, I went, "Wow, she's here to do it."
Yeah. What's interesting about Molly, because I haven't watched The Traitors, but just from that little clip that they showed, you can tell that she knows how to lose with grace. And that to me tells me that she knows that winning and losing isn't everything. That she's going to, if she takes a tumble or if she takes some criticism from the judges, she's just going to bounce back. She understands what failure is and she understands what it is to lose, but she also understands that from those losses, that's how you learn, that's how you improve, and that's how you eventually get the win. There was a lot of talk about her going all the way, a lot of talk about her going to the final, a lot of talk about her possibly winning it. I mean, I think she definitely had the judges on her side.
Yeah,
She
for
was a
sure. And I
vision
think,
in Merlot as well.
yeah, and keeping in mind too, she was injured, right? She had hurt her wrist, and they missed 4 weeks of training. That's more than half of the total time that the celebs have to train before these live performances. And it really goes to show how good she is. Because if she would still have had those 4 weeks, we would have seen something even more brilliant.
What's interesting is she had, it was her left wrist, I think, that she injured. And for people at home that may not know, she has a disability on her right hand. She was born with missing fingers on her right hand. So for a while there, she almost was just relying on her legs and her core strength, because as we know, you need your arms so much in ice skating. And perhaps people at home forget that or underestimate how much we use our upper bodies to compensate for what's happening below, where we're balancing on just, a small, teeny tiny quarter of an inch of blade. So for her to have literally her left arm in a cast, or that was like a splint that she had on,
Yeah.
that would have been incredibly difficult and also quite dangerous.
Oh, for sure. And I felt too like her perform like as we know the skating is there. The basics are there. And I really enjoy what she's doing, but her movements, the choreography itself, I really felt like at the beginning when she was just stood there and then she did this like head roll, she kind of just threw it away. And I
Yeah.
know that she's probably well, no, I don't believe she went to stage school, so she doesn't have a dance background, but if Colin can really work with her on finishing those movements, make that head roll or make that arm extension really come from your heart rather than just, oh, this is just choreography. So I feel if she can work on the right things, I do believe as well that she could go all the way with this, except for her socks. I
Oh,
saw
not
socks
again, not the
again.
socks again. Oh, that is a big no-no. Do people not listen to this podcast seriously? Like, sort your socks out. Can I just say the piece of music that she skated to, which I love? I mean, I loved her anyway, but I loved Vampire. I love that piece of music. She skated to Vampire. She didn't suck. And I loved her outfit in the Merlot. I thought she really tried to embody the drama. But I agree with you on the choreography. Did you notice the choreography didn't move? It hardly moved across the ice at all. I know that they did, I think Chris counted them 6 lifts, and obviously, but no excuse to not move in between. I felt like it was quite a stationary piece for that piece of music. I wanted it to be more lyrical and more long. And I love lifts. It's my favourite part of pair skating or ice dancing. And so to see 6 of them is fantastic in week 1, but I do feel that they compromised their choreography for that, and there wasn't enough actual flow. She barely
Yeah,
moved.
no, I agree. And I think too, towards the end, once the music was building and building and building and the music started to get frantic, the skating got frantic. and we lost even more of the movements
Yeah.
within both of their bodies. And I think it's just something to always think about is even with a frantic piece of music, you can still make it flow and make it lyrical and make it, and have those extensions. Don't get caught up. Try not to get caught up in what the music is sounding like, because
Yeah.
at viewers at home, it makes us feel frantic too, right?
Yeah. I think she's one to watch. I just feel it wasn't quite there tonight for me. And I was quite surprised by how high the scores were.
Were you? I
Yeah.
wasn't. 7.5 is really high for the first week's performance.
Yeah.
But keeping in mind, if I go back in my notes, the total score that we had last week with Michaela was 30.5. So they still are going, the judges are still going to be comparing last week's skaters or competitors to this week's skaters.
Yeah.
So I think she was 1 point below Michaela, and they also had her then a 0.5. They had Molly a 0.5 higher than Dan, which we'll get into. But I thought on the scale of how they were laying things out, the judges, that I thought that was in line with what it should have been.
Okay, well, that's our first disagreement of the night. I shall park that for later and I'll remember that for future weeks.
Ashley, he said it was all about her potential, really solid
He said
skating.
you could go all the way to the final.
Yeah, yep. And it would be, okay, so if we just look back historically, take a little pause on this particular performance. The show has not had a female win in 7 or 8 series.
Yeah, I know. And it's a big miss, I feel, because I think it's unfair that we haven't had a female win, because I think possibly due to the demographic, I know a lot of the audience members are probably voting for the males, you know, that young, hot male kind of athleticism, which we all love to see. Obviously looks great in the costumes, kind of brings a different, stronger, more aggressive energy to the floor. Whereas I think for the women, you know, they can really show a softness and a lyricism that perhaps we don't see with the males, and I think that's underappreciated by our audience sometimes, and it makes me sad. But hey, you know, it's a popularity show at the end of the day, so it's all about those votes.
It is. It is all about the votes. Odie really liked the chemistry that they had. I personally feel that it can be even more.
Agree. 100%. I was surprised when she said that. This is why I'm saying I was surprised by the results. I did love it. I loved Molly. I loved her story. I loved the way that she's, you know, just out there from the get-go, ready to fight for it. That's great. I do feel, however, that she was a little overmarked, and I thought the comments, I was surprised that they were not as constructive as perhaps they could have been, and perhaps given her a little bit more to work on for the next week.
And I completely agree with you on that, because in my notes, I said, what about the skating? Because all of the critiques were based upon A, her potential, or B, her performance. And they really didn't say anything about the actual basics of skating, which they were harping on with everybody else.
I know.
And
And like
again,
I
like
said,
you
I didn't
just
feel
said-
she moved enough across the ice, and that's the choreography, not her. But
Yeah.
I don't think we saw enough of those basic skating skills.
And with what you just said too, is you want to, as that professional and the celebs as well, when you stand there in front of the judges, that's the only time you get to talk to them throughout
Yeah.
the week. And what they say, you really take to heart, because that then gives you something to work on for the following week. And they didn't really give her any constructive criticism.
Which is extraordinary for week one, and not because it was completely warranted. I think perhaps they could have helped her a little bit more there. Because we all need to work on stuff, right?
Yeah. Especially me. Fourth, skating. Josh and Tippy. For me, I'm just going to put this out there. His first steps, he went from 0. Like, the least able person to ever step foot on our ice.
Okay, Jane
day
and
one.
Chris had to rescue him from the other side of the rink. And it reminded me of Alan Carr, Chatty Man. He came to our show, I think, 2007, 2008, when Todd Carter was on the show, and he said, it'd be faster if they picked the ice up and moved it around him. And when Josh stepped onto the ice, that was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, girl.
But then for me, he went from 0 to hero.
Oh, really?
I thought he was by far the most improved of the night. The fact that he got out there, his performance, I mean, I also have to say he did this turn, which typically we call either a 2 foot turn. Did you know what I'm going to say, right? Which should have been a 3 turn, which technically happens on 1 foot. But he did this 3 turn, which I've never seen before. I think he invented a new move. I don't know how he got from forwards to backwards with Tippy, but it made me laugh out loud.
Listen, this was a Swan Lake Scissor Sisters mashup that nobody knew that they needed. It was bonkers. I mean, he was there giving it the whole ballet thing in his little disco outfit, and then all of a sudden it was like, mash it up, let's go. I have skated to Scissor Sisters. I skated to it in 2007, I think, like the second series. That was definitely a very different feel to the Scissor Sisters that I skated to. I don't feel like dancing. I mean, he did an accidental spin. Did you see that? Like, he accidentally did a spin, a 2 foot spin. He was doing a hockey glide around the corner, and then all of a sudden he just wound himself up into a little spin, and I was like, "Move, there you go." Maybe he got an extra point or two for that. He looked like he had fun, but let's face it, Tippy was doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. She was doing a lot of the hard work, and God bless her. I mean, even he said it was awful to be there, but he seemed very thankful at least to have gone through it.
Absolutely. Ashley marked him 5.5. Odie gave him a 4. Jane 5.5. Chris 5.5, which totaled out to be 20.5. I have to. I thought Odie's score was fair. And she got the brunt of the boos in the audience with that. You know, there wasn't a lot of content. It was 2 foot skating. You could tell that Tippy, like you just said, was doing all the hard work.
And he said he had no rhythm and he couldn't dance, and it was obvious. And look, I understand that. You know, I've had partners that don't like to dance or can't dance, and that's not, you know, the entirety of dancing on ice. Of course, the skating is important, but we didn't get either. So we didn't get the rhythm, we didn't get the dance, and we didn't get the skating. I mean, obviously, he was still performing his way through it, which was nice to see because, you know, under the circumstances, with the tools that he had at his disposal, it must have been hard for him to get out there. You know, even though he's kind of funny manning his way through it, we still know that he knows that he's struggling and that he's at the back of the pack, that he's playing catch up. So that's playing on your mind psychologically. So I think, you know, the fact that he could at least let us all enjoy that with him made it feel like we weren't laughing at him, we were laughing with him. Yeah. However, you know, there wasn't a lot of skate. Well, there was hardly any skating. There wasn't any dancing to speak of, and he actually kept missing his beats. So it was a bit of an uncomfortable watch for me.
As Jane had said, you know, we can't help but smile, because I did smile the whole way through that performance. He did skate on his own. He can get his way, you know, from point A to point B on his own. Granted, there is no sort of like technical reflection within that. But I think working on rhythm is going to be really difficult, because if you don't have rhythm, it's hard to
you can't really
get
teach
rhythm.
That. Yeah, you can't teach that.
I think after this performance, he's going to fall in love with it. No?
Well,
do you not think so?
Meaning that you don't think he's fallen in love with it yet?
Oh, no. Like you said, he was terrified.
Yeah. Did you notice that Chris called him a crash test? A crash test dummy? Yeah. I was like, whoa, Christopher Dino, that is harsh.
Yeah.
He said, I'm glad you've improved from being a crash test dummy. And I was like, oh!
I think, too, because he wears the helmet for precaution. He wears the elbow pads, the knee pads, the wrist guards.
Well, fair play to him.
Well, of course. And I think, too, it's not necessarily a bad thing when you're learning to ice skate to keep yourself protected, because it actually gives you better confidence to try things rather than if you're, you know, just in your normal training gear. But
well, it's interesting that you said that we saw him skate across the ice, because actually Jane said she was impressed by his solo skating. However, you know, will he be able to cope with a slow routine? Well, probably not.
Very true. Very true. Last but not least, of the competitors at least, we had Dan and Vanessa James skating to Bad Habits. His first steps, I mean, come on. He's got it. He can skate. He said himself he's skated before. He's strong. He's confident.
Steady on his feet. Steady Eddie. Steady Edgar. Like his posture was the thing of beauty. Did you see that? Guy was like giving me all the straight backs in the world. Like a swan, just gliding across. Loved his posture. It reminded me of my husband, actually. David, when he skates, he's got lovely, lovely posture.
So the creative itself, they were doing like a Bridgerton feel with skating to the Ed Sheeran Bad Habits music.
I felt like I'd been
When,
transported to Versailles. It was
yeah,
so like French courtier. It was beautiful.
but that is a very difficult creative
Yeah,
because it can come across really bad really easily.
yeah.
And when they took that first shot of the two of them with the masks on, and then they pulled out a little bit to see that it was this Versailles scene, I was like, oh God, this could go horribly wrong. But the two of them work so well together. I was enthralled by it. I absolutely loved it.
I want to watch it again. He had great posture. He had lovely lines. He looked so dapper. I mean, the costume that he was wearing was absolutely like French general, absolutely beautiful. I mean, we all know that Vanessa, we don't need to speak about Vanessa because she's a stunner anyway. But together they looked great. And I mean, that smile, I mean, as Chris said, that smile is $1 million. I mean, it just knocks you, it bowls you over. I loved it.
And again, let's give him some credit. It was not mentioned on the show, but he did the rotational cartwheel lifts, which are very difficult
Yeah.
in week one. And then I do want to explain too, Frankie, you can kind of give us the female perspective on this, the counterbalance lift that they did at the end. For the
Yeah.
boy, it's very, very difficult because you have to be so stable and secure on your feet. You've done this before with celebs, correct?
Yeah, so with the counterbalance, what happens is you come together and he lifts the girl, in this case Vanessa, and he feels very stable because the two of them are now have the center of gravity between them over his skates because she's now left the ice. But then what happens is he bends down low and she leans away from him. Now, if he doesn't counterbalance that by leaning back into a very unnatural position for ice skating, he's going to hit his toe picks because she's a full grown woman and the weight of her body will pull him forwards. He'll hit his toe picks and they're both going to go crashing down. She's going to land on her head, on the back of her head. So that's a really unpleasant lift to go for in terms of the fear factor for him because he knows what's at stake here. So as he goes down, if he's concentrating on her and looking to her for support, psychological support, he's looking in her eye and saying, stay with me, because he needs that kind of hand holding, then he's going to topple forward and he's going to fall flat on top of her. But what he did so beautifully was as he went down and he let her unfurl and do the back bend, he just leant away just enough that the counterbalance was absolutely perfect. Chef's kiss perfect.
Chef's kiss, perfect. Love that. Judges scored him a total of 29, 7, and 7.5s across the board. Again, I think we're all in agreement here. Smooth, strong, the connection. Jane thought that they lacked a connection.
I was a little bit in disagreement here. You may have been in agreement with them, but I was not. Because I thought both Jane and OT kept saying that he didn't have a connection with Vanessa. That's absolutely not true. You can see that he completely trusts her process, and
Yes.
trust is part of the connection. And that smile that he had halfway through, it wasn't a smiley routine, really. It was an emotive routine. It was a romantic routine. It wasn't one where you go full out cheesy. But that smile that he had halfway through when he caught her eye, I just think it really showed to me that he was like, look, I'm doing it. Am I doing a good job? Like, it was beautiful connection. I thought the connection was actually spot on. It wasn't cheesy. It wasn't forced. It didn't feel contrived. I just felt it was a very beautiful thing.
Now, keep in mind, too, we see it on television. The judges see it from the side of the ice, so they don't necessarily get to see those close-up shots. And I do believe that sometimes those connections in the house or when you're watching it live in front of your face, those connections can be lost, right?
Bar humbug. I disagree.
Well, no, I mean,
Not with you, with the judges.
I agree with you that I felt the connection, but
Yeah.
maybe
I know, I'm
they
not
didn't.
disagreeing with you.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't because I don't know. It's a hard thing to say, and I think it's a little bit subjective. I completely agree that they trust each other, that they've got a fantastic partnership,
Yeah.
and the overuse, you're right, the overuse of this performance wall can be a cop out, right?
Yeah. I think sometimes, you need to say something because they do have to work on something for next week. I agree with that. And the performance was nice, but there were other things in the performance that they could have picked up on. I did think he was a lovely skater. I did think the lifts were amazing, but there's still a lot of work to be done there. And I think the connection part of it isn't something they really need to force because
Right.
I think it's already there.
No, Totally agree. Totally agree. So those were the 5 celebs that skated tonight. The leaderboard ended up with Molly at 29.5, Dan 29, Charlie was 26, Josh 20.5, and Sir Steve was 17.5. Again, in comparison to what we saw last week, Michaela ends up on top of the leaderboard if we combine the two, and Josh and Steve were the bottom two, as we saw when they went to the lineup.
I mean, I think that was fair. Judging by last week's performances and this week's performances, I think Michaela should have been on top, and I think the 2 boys that were at the bottom should have been at the bottom, but there were some other positionings there that I perhaps didn't agree with.
Like?
Well, I don't want to be like, spoiler alert, are we going to go into like who went home? Because I'm going to go off. I've got something to say, people.
Yeah. Well, before we do that, yes, Disney and Ice came in tonight. They did the competition.
Yeah.
Mickey
Beautiful.
Mouse stole the show for me.
Yeah. Well, him and Moana. Gorgeous.
Him and Moana.
Gorgeous.
It was brilliant. Absolutely
Lovely.
brilliant.
Sparkling. It set the stage on fire, actually. I really loved it.
And again, it just goes to show how difficult skating is for these celebrities when you see a professional group like Disney on Ice come in and do what they do best. You can really make the comparison then on, oh gosh, these guys, like, the celebs do need a lot of work.
They're at the start of their journey, let's say politely.
Yes. Okay, then to the voting window. Vanessa, James, and Eric were featured in this, the professional number.
Bastille.
Bastille, which
You and
we've
I have skated to
to.
this.
Yeah. And I just have to say, number one, welcome to Vanessa, James, and Eric's world. They are class. They
Best in
are
the field.
probably the best skaters within the last 5-10 years that we have seen in the world. And to get to watch them showcase their talent to the UK public on Dancing on Ice tonight just made me feel really happy and warm. And what we saw tonight is only half of what they can do.
Not even. It was a mere drop in the ocean for them.
And it was just really nice for them to get their moment so that everybody can really see their talent, because it's amazing.
Well, presumably they'll be featured as well on the Dancing on Ice tour. I'm assuming that Jen and Chris will have them with them. So, I mean, it would be nice for people that are going to see the tour to really get to see them skate on bigger ice where they can really breathe and stretch out and showcase what they do. But yeah, extraordinary talent. So it was lovely to see.
Absolutely loved it. And
So-
then the celebs lined up.
Ooh. I was a bit nervous for them. You get that feeling because you remember what it's like. I remember standing in that lineup and thinking, oh, why am I even here? You know, you love the week. It's great. You spend your whole week with your celeb training and you're like celebrating every little micro maneuver that they do and their improvements. Each and every time they improve, you celebrate. It's wonderful. And then you do the show and you get to dress up and you have fun, you know, and the family's there and the audience is there and that's a great buzz as well. And then you stand in that lineup and you think, I hate this job.
It's horrible. Like, it's torture at that point.
I think everybody should be given a chance to fight for their place in the show. So I don't know why we have this format. I don't like it. I think it's unfair. You know, if you have a bigger following, you would think that that would save you. In this case, that wasn't the case.
Correct. Absolutely. And I think, too, getting rid of the Save Me skate is just now less skating in the show.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's 2 extra performances that we get to watch. It was an interesting choice for them to make. Why they did it, I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, it was a shock result tonight. Chelsea,
well, I hope they
and
don't do it
Andy.
again because I didn't like it. So let's go back to having a Save Me skate, please. I vote for it. I'm going to go on the ITV website and vote for the Save Me skate.
I'm Me too. Can you write in your own option, do you think? Who do you give your 5 votes to? The Save Me
The
skate.
Save Me skate.
Brilliant.
as an audience member, you have to remember that a lot of our audience members aren't skaters, so they're just getting a feel for this. It's just how they feel on the night. It's how the emotions that is drawn out of them. If they like the music, if they like the costumes, if they like the lighting. But when you see 5 performances or 6 performances, or next week, 10 or 11 performances, you don't really get a chance to see all of those. Or perhaps the people that skated first, you've forgotten. And then if they're in the skate off, you get to see it again, and you get to really focus and see 2 competitors side by side. It's a competition.
I agree. But we need to talk about the shock exit. Chelsea and Andy.
Can I say, the first thing that I wrote down at the very top of the show, I put TX2, which means transmission 2, and I was just writing down my notes from the leaderboard for last week, and the very first thing I wrote was, Chelsea and Andy should not have been last on the leaderboard last week. I don't believe that. Fast forward to this week, and of course now we have forgotten their performance from last week because it was a week ago, and we've just seen 5 more new ones. And Chelsea and Andy somehow got lost in the whirlwind. People didn't vote for them. I don't know how that happened because she's a very popular girl, and she got voted off.
I don't know. It was. I feel bad because I really enjoyed Chelsea's performance last week. I think she had, again, if we're going to talk about potential, because the judges love to talk about potential, she had a lot of potential.
I was absolutely stunned when they called her and Andy to be the couple that were going home this week. I don't think that was fair. I think there were a lot of stunned and shocked people on the ice. And if we're being honest, last week's skaters, all of the couples last week, bar none, were better than all of the couples this week.
Slightly disagree with that. But the majority, yes.
Okay. So you're right. The majority last week were better than this week. I felt like last week was just a stronger field in general. And last week had more of a field of potential winners than this week did.
I think that is also a victim of the buzz of the first show. Because the second week always feels, because I've been in first weeks before and I've been in second weeks before. And that the buzz of the second week is just not there, right?
Yeah, but you've had a little extra time to focus. You've seen how hard the first week goes. You've seen the mistakes that the first week people have made when they've just been thrown into the deep end like that. So you've had a chance to analyse the psychology behind it, and like where you need to get your headspace and what you need to do, how you need to bow, how you need to get on and present yourself to the judges, which the first week contestants, some of them weren't quite ready for that. Mm-hmm. And I think you've had a little bit more time to get your feet underneath you, and you had the shell shock of actually going on and doing the group performance, so that was like your first skate, and now you've got time to focus on being calm and being ready. And I didn't see that. There were nerves last week, definitely, and you're right, that does add to the energy and the buzz of it, and that anticipation. But I do think that on the whole, last week everybody had much more potential to go further in the competition. So when Chelsea went out, it was a bit unpleasant.
I'm thinking, and it's a shame too, because I feel that she would have really enjoyed this whole process.
And she had some fire in her belly. Like she wasn't even someone that kind of you felt would have given up if she had, not great scores or not great comments, which was not the case. I felt like that would have just inspired her to do better. She was not the kind of person to give up. So we would have seen a lot more from her, I think.
100%. Well, Chelsea, Andy, congratulations. Well done on your Dancing on Ice journey. I know it was cut short, but at the same token, you took on the challenge. We loved watching you, and you will be missed from the cast, that's for sure.
100%.
Next week, movie night.
Woo!
Sometimes a hit, sometimes not.
We need to dress up next week for movie night because we did it on the podcast last year, so I think we need to bring a bit of glam to movie night next week.
Well, surprise me.
I might go full Alphaba.
Oh, you just gave it away. I was going to say surprise me and I'll surprise you.
Oh, no, I only said I might. I'll surprise you with something else then. Well,
shall we
need to do
our competition?
Envelope. Oh, the competition. We can do that first, yep. So one of you lucky lots who answered correctly is going to win this fantastic photo of Matt Evers and my back, signed by us, personalised to you guys.
And the winner is, drum roll please,
it's a silent drum roll,
Deborah from Instagram.
Woo!
I don't have her last name or her surname, because her surname isn't on her account. But we will get this off to you. We'll send you a DM. We will get your address and shipping details and all of that. And congratulations. Thanks for answering the questions correctly. And well done.
Also, let's not forget we need to do the golden envelope. Look how shimmery and shiny my golden envelope. You've done yours already. Oh, it's got... Yours is descriptive. I like that. It describes what it's supposed to be. It's golden.
Yeah, I did it.
You did it already?
It's sealed.
Oh, I haven't done mine yet. Okay, well, I'll do mine.
Well, you do yours. Basically, last season, we did the golden envelopes, obviously making predictions on who we feel is going to win the series. Did you get yours right last year, Frankie?
Oh, you know I didn't. Actually, I picked Eddie and Vicky last year, and they went out fairly early, and I was salty. Really, really not happy.
You were salty as that pretzel.
Oh, I love the pretzel. You won it last year. You picked Ryan Thomas. You predicted that from, well, before week 1 when we did our golden envelopes. I mean, you were the worthy winner there.
Well, thank you. Well, hopefully this year I will win again.
Hey, give me a chance here. Listen. Well, it was fun being on here with you tonight. Thanks for watching the show all the way from LA. I feel like you're so glamorous over there. Honestly, I'm like, hey, I'm live from the foggy UK, and you're like, I'm in LA, baby. And
Well,
like next week it's movie week, so you're literally in Hollywood.
Maybe I should. Yeah, maybe I should go out to the go do the show from underneath the Hollywood sign.
Oh, that would be incredible.
So thank you guys so much once again for listening, for watching. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, share, hit the bell. You know what to do. It helps the podcast get out there. And again, please give us a follow since TikTok is now back up and running for us here in the United States.
Bonkers.
On TikTok, we are Icebreakers Pod. Instagram is ice.breakers.pod. YouTube, Icebreakers Pod, or just go to any of our socials and on the link trees. You can find us there.
Well, bye, everybody.
Thank you, Frankie. Have a good week, everybody, and we will see you right back here, same place, same time, all dressed up for Movie Week. Adios.
Bye.
Muchachos.